Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
Welcome to another edition of Inside the Firm. I am Alex, your host, Gore. I'm here with Lance, Luxury Division guest on the podcast. Shows up every time. Love it, Cayko.
He's here. Yep.
And before we get into it, let's get into a rocket ship, and let's make that a Revit rocket ship and ship our skills to the moon. Go to revitrocketship.com. Check out what's there. If you need to reformat, rethink, or start out, learn the way to model correctly so that you get more rewards. revitrocketship.com.
Al, do you know what's crucial?
What?
Accurate data.
Okay.
Accurate data is crucial, especially in today's business environment. Outdated and inaccurate data leads to turnarounds, delays, and rising costs. With supply chain and staffing issues, these costs and delays can multiply. That's why a resource like ARCAT.com is so important. ARCAT works with manufacturers to keep their data up to date and accurate, and offers it to you easily accessible and free. Use ARCAT's powerful search engine to find out what you need and download right there on their site without needing to pay anything or even register. So try ARCAT.com today. That's ARCAT.com. The other thing I wanted you to try out is PellaLuxury.com/the firm, because when you go to that link, you will experience a collection of brands that brings your creative vision to life. The luxury division of Pella is a world-class collection of brands, including Duratherm, Riley, and Benelli, all pioneers of industry who provide window and door solutions to discerning architects, the building industry, and beyond. During this year in 2023, we know how important it is to step back and spend time in gratitude. We appreciate all our clients trusting us with their projects in a record-breaking year. We are excited and ready to take the leap on the new year in 2023. The luxury division of Pella doesn't push beyond the limits. They set them. Explore PellaLuxury.com/the firm today.
All right. Speaking of having accurate data, that relates to the chapter that we just read, which is seek first to understand, then to be understood in the 7 habits. Next chapter is synergize. One little hack. Let's say you're having an argument with your partner, your spouse, someone in business, a client. The seek first to understand, then to be understood is a shortcut to a solution. So instead of them making their point, you making your point, them making their point, you making their point, stop yourself in the middle of that and then ask, why do you want it to be that way? And keep digging in on that to really, really understand why they want it to be that way and have them explain it. Because not only then will you better understand it, you might then find, in the explanation is actually what I want too, so we can come to a conclusion faster. Just a little hack there. Read that book. It's great. Moving on. Lance, you want to explain how laser scanning why everyone should be doing it, or did you do that last time?
So what I'm going to show is an inside look of how we do it. So if you're watching on the YouTube, what you'll see pulled up, I want to show you guys. So I posted, we made the leap November 8th, 2022, and purchased a 3D LIDAR scanner. We used to rent one for each job, and it was costing us about $2,000 per rental. And now we landed at about $8,000 with all the accessories included, and I'll kind of go over them in detail with everybody. And it's been working phenomenally. So I went and scanned my first project of ours up in North Dakota a couple weeks ago, and I pushed it to the limits, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But everybody also asked when we originally purchased this, like, will you do a tutorial on it? Will you explain how it works? So that we can just understand how it works. It's super simple. Al's going to learn it at some point here.
I already did.
Oh, you did? You did with Tyler, right?
Yeah.
Didn't you? Okay.
Yep.
I think it's just Gresh that needs to do it.
Yeah. And we went over all this.
Yeah, but I'm going to show you. So here's the inside look, okay? So what I didn't share with everybody is the workflow. Didn't I?
You did. You
Did
did.
I? Okay, here's what I want to show everybody. Okay,
Okay.
here's how I'm going to show. Here's what I want to show everybody is so basically, here's what we ended up buying. We ended up buying this big old tripod,
Yep.
and it's like a Manfrotto 190X or something like that. And then here is our little case that it comes in, the actual head for the Matterport laser scanner.
Yeah.
So this is the head that it comes in, and then there's obviously a battery that goes with it that gets put into this slot back down here. Okay. So what Rebecca put together this awesome tutorial for us, and I know Al said we already went over it, but what I wanted to share with is one of the things that I would tweak, that I've tweaked to this, and I just wanted to show everybody, is that basically there's a couple of things to add to it. So I won't go through it in detail again, now that Alex has sort of corrected me on that. But one of the things that she recommended is like you should scan about every 2 or 3 feet apart, and I pushed it all the way to its limit with what I did.
How far did you go apart?
I went up to, I would try to, for example, now let's look back at this diagram. Let's say I started, my first scan was a number 1, is the number 1 down here.
Yep.
I would go all the way, instead of just 2, I would go all the way to 3.
So you went about 15 feet. And now,
yes.
Yep. And
Basically, think about it this way: is let's say I started in this room.
Yep.
You only need about 2 scans. Like, and the reason I tested its limits, because once you do your second scan, it will try to recognize the first one, as you saw.
Yep.
And if it doesn't, okay, then scale it back a little bit. I only had to do that about 5 times with 200 scans to put into perspective.
Yep.
And then Rebecca, got the RCP and the file for it from Matterport after we uploaded everything, and she said it was fine. Your data was fine.
When I went on site and did it, we were about every 8 feet.
Yeah.
So it's good to know
That's
that.
a good sort of in between, I feel like.
Yeah.
Where you can do it. Then the other thing you're going to need is, don't forget this, is you have to buy an iPad. And because that's what you're walking around with, and then it's talking via Bluetooth to your scanner, okay? So that's one big tweak. I think, like, if you did make the leap and you purchased this, then I highly recommend that you just try to push it to its limit, see if you can get away with 2 scans per room. And then the other big thing to always keep in mind is, like, whenever you get to the windows, whenever you get to a mirror, you really need to mark that off as soon as possible, because you'll forget about it. And then you'll also forget about levels. But you can reassign stuff. You can reassign previous scans to levels and everything like that. So, like, it was my first time doing it, so I had to do that. With that, the last thing is I forget what the term that Rebecca was using. So once you get the file from Matterport, then you can, it was something like decentralize or desensitize it or something like that. Basically, you can scale down. Let's say you have, I'm going to throw out a number. Let's say you have, it's set to like 50. So the value is set very high. Or let's say it's a scale of 1 to 100. When you're in the piece of software to then download your file and export it rather, so that you can put it into Revit, this will clean it up. And so you can play with those settings. So I just want to encourage everybody. That's the biggest thing as I wanted to talk about today is, like, if you're scared by this, I'm telling you as somebody who did it, it's like amazingly simple especially if you have this like tutorial set up from your staff.
Yeah.
To do it. And then Rebecca went to this laser scanning conference, and that was her 2-second lean, was figuring out how you, I think, can decentralize or something like that. Desensitize it. That's what it was.
There you go.
Desensitize it.
I wanted to say defrag like your computer.
Yeah, you used to be able to do that.
Do you think, like, I'll go to our alma mater. Do you think NDSU should have one of these, and we should talk to them and say, like, you guys should what?
I don't know what for. But.
Well, this is where literally the thought just came to my head, so it's not flush out. hey, you should have a class, or remember those electives that were like 3 credits when you got up higher, and someone like Ben should run it to begin with, and like, okay, scan the downtown buildings. Now they know how to do this. Now put your addition in between, like there's lots that are empty in Fargo, right? Like, but like scan, have them model it, then have it put it up. And each year you can scan more of the downtown for real and just make this super cool.
Yeah, maybe it could be one of the elective professional courses or something like that.
Yeah.
Like a technology course.
And the only reason I like it is because like this is going to, like, when you go to a job interview, this can be one of your skills that you know how to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you'll blow their mind. You'll help them level up. So that's why everybody should be doing it. That was the biggest thing is like, look, we are, I was genuinely intimidated a little bit to begin with, and then doing it one time, not a problem. Everybody can do it. I could train the construction guys to do it. We could train
students.
One of my children to do it. 13-year-old Kaya.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Cool. Okay. I have a couple articles. One I think we already went over, so I'll just go over it quickly.
Sure.
But the Great Resignation, and if you could plug me in, Lance. Here. Is now the great regret. 80% of job hoppers wish they hadn't quit their old roles. So there's
really
2 sentences in here.
So funny. I'm serious. Like, I'm sorry. Just everybody just jumping on bandwagons.
Yep. So both job openings and the number of individuals quitting reached record highs during the pandemic, counting 4.5 million quitters in November. Job openings reached more than 11 million a month later. That is so much. That is so large. So a lot of them left for better pay, which is fine, but it states, yet those who did jump ship for better pay and work-life balance, the vast majority still admitted they wanted their old roles back. Gen Z are the most likely to regret moving roles. Mm-hmm. Those who switched industries were also 25 more likely to hanker for the previous sectors than those who stayed within their trade. I think there's a lot to balance, and I think everyone should know when someone's trying to hire them. I'd include ourselves on this. They are trying to sell you on their firm.
Yeah.
And it's somewhat of marketing, and there's, of course, buyer's remorse. But you should know that you're getting a marketing view of that company. Yeah, we do this. Oh, yeah, you get better pay. Oh, yeah, our work, our balance, our culture is awesome. Well, you honestly don't know that.
Yeah.
You don't know that. And they might not know that because they haven't been to,
Sure.
like other firms. So if you had a great culture, maybe you negotiate for higher pay. Maybe you realize that you're in a good situation. I think you just got to think about it, more seriously.
It's always the old, is the grass greener on the other side of the fence? I'm not sure it is every time. I mean, it's like you're taking a risk by just trusting that it is versus what it isn't. And unfortunately, right, let's say you jump ship, you're probably not going to get let back in the door if the grass was in fact greener where you started from.
Oh, you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Second article. Listen to this, Lance. Fed needs a recession to win the inflation fight, study shows.
Yahoo!
Good. So this study looked at 16 episodes since 1950, including 6 in the United States and others, so 10, just do the math, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Germany, Canada, UK, in which central banks used interest rates to engineer disinflation, which the research defined as a decline in the inflation rate of around 2% or more. We find no instance, also means zero, in which a significant central bank-induced disinflation occurred without a recession. No instance. And also, I want people to have some perspective, right? So here's a couple different. I'll just go with one with the recession. Me and you know specifically that I think it was September 2008 when like the crash happened. But Lance, me and you noticed a change in the economy during the Christmas break 9 months before, because we even said like, hey, I don't think people realize what's going on. We need to get our portfolios in order and start sending out job stuff.
Yeah.
And we even realized that because we were talking to our professors, we weren't getting as many callbacks and we weren't getting the offers as quickly as the year before. So I still hope my prediction is right, that April is the low. I still hope that it's all right. But these things take longer than people think. Like, we remember it as this September, boom, it happened. No. There was a build up there. So that's just my thoughts. I wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. First thing though, before I get into my thoughts, is the annual inflation rate for the United States is 6.4%, and so the next one you should be looking for is in about 2 weeks, March 14th. They're going to give us an inflation update. We'll see if they're continuing to tamp it down, and then if they are, then Al, I think, is probably trending right about his April prediction. We'll have to see about that. So here's what I think is happening on the ground in the economy, right?
Yep.
This is only for us, but in being in business now for 13 years, we have noticed a trend in Colorado, and it seems like some of it maybe has to do with the weather. I mean, we've had a very cold winter, but we're sitting in a building where we actually poured footings in December, and so it was fine. Yeah. Everything's fine. So you can still work throughout the years. All I'm trying to get my point across is about that. It seems like we get all of this momentum that happens starting after tax season every year. There's a whole everybody's figured out how much they owe Uncle Sam or how much they're getting back from Uncle Sam, business-wise, personal-wise, all of that. Then they're ready to finally start planning or saving for their remodel, their addition, their new business that they're going to build, whatever it is. We start building momentum with increased inquiries, increased contracts being signed all the way to the end of the year, and it really actually gets pretty crazy at the end of the year. All good and grand. We continually raised fees all throughout the year last year because that's what we were seeing. And then what I was hoping is that this would, in the 13th year of business, we would finally be in a place where it would be like, now after the holiday break, so you're building all this momentum up to the holiday break, then the holiday break happens. I take time off, Al takes time off, we all take time off. Everybody's also spending a ton of money over the holidays on travel, presents, whatever. And then also businesses need to offload so they get taxed less because they need to reduce the amount of profit they're showing on their balance sheets and everything. Then the first of the year comes around. And from a business owner standpoint, again, I'm hoping for like maybe then the 13th year we'll finally be able to carry that momentum over and level up again. Wrong. So I had like 20 emails out ready to go. I had all kinds of meetings lined up with people. And sure enough, everybody basically kind of reeled back and reassessed where they were at finance-wise, where the economy's headed, all of that kind of stuff. And sure enough, there's the lull. So it's like, all right, where are fees actually at after that reset that we've noticed that happens every single calendar year? And for us, what we're noticing is, at least from my perspective is, and the projects that I have landed, it seems as if from the high last year to where they're at right now, it's about a 30% drop. I mean, if you zoom out further, like Al keeps pointing out in our internal meetings, like, yeah, but the fees are still overall bigger than what they were before. But there's definitely, at least what we're seeing, and what I'm seeing anyway, is like the bottom right now to be able to win contracts in the very early season of business, which is January and February. And it's also really cold, so I don't know if that has a factor in everything, in the psychology, but everything's doing. But then, remember, I started this little rant about tax season. Well, we're right. I mean, Al and I have our tax meeting next week or the week after or whatever. So we have to start planning for that stuff too. So if you're feeling discouraged, just know that's where we're coming from right now. We have seen this now for over a decade, over and over and over again. And maybe it's just going to always be like this. I have no idea. The key to your survival is going to be how you can find that bottom. And I know architects hate hearing that of like, oh, it's just a race to the bottom with fees. Well, I don't know what to say, because the other factor I didn't mention, I'll mention now, is like how many architects that are listening to this show or that they know of, other people, had didn't have their backlog written into their software, so they know how big is their backlog of work, money-wise, like what you have billable-wise, and then how many people were just satisfied with not even going after enough work to carry them through this slow period at the beginning of the year, and then they're like, they finish most of their work by the end.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know where I'm going with this. Yeah. They take their holiday break. Then all of a sudden they're like, holy cow, it's January 3rd. Oh my God, we don't have any work. Yeah. Oh God, we got to get work. Now we're in panic mode. Race to the bottom.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on it.
Well, and then also too, like, it's just the macroeconomic comes down to the micro, and it translates, and that's what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
And they literally printed money to have a party, and and now they're taking away money and increasing interest rates not to have a party. So like it's crazy, because what's upsetting about it is it leads businesses to do a race to a top, meaning a race to higher pay, a race to steal other employees, a race to grab that.
That was the race we incurred last year. 100%.
Right. And here's the hard part about it. Here's what's upsetting about it is, let's say it goes longer than what I hope, right? That means layoffs. That means layoffs are not fun. They are life-changing events, right? Traumatic. And all of a sudden, it's probably going to be those new people, right? Because they also have those higher salaries that need to be cut. And also, when you're new, you're not the most efficient, like getting in. Mm-hmm. I remember talking to someone, and a friend of mine, different industry and all that. He's like, yeah, I've been there for a month, and he's like, I'm so frustrated. I'm like, why are you so frustrated? He's like, because I feel like I'm not contributing, because I'm learning all these new systems and all that.
That'd be frustrating.
Anyways, so if that all happens, then all of a sudden you have these traumatic events where if they didn't literally spike the punch bowl, you wouldn't have had those, and you would have just continued on your normal increases, normal production, stuff like that. So like, I don't want to point fingers, but like I'm pointing some fingers.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the macro to the micro. I'll give you exactly an example that points to fees. A contract that we just won, then we had to suppress fees by 30%.
Yep.
So so there was this developer. It's a multifamily project, and we actually it was such a good conversation, I think, because we were both like, I was just like, I just said, just tell me like exactly where you want to be at, and why you want to be there. And I was like, thank you. I was like, that's all I needed to hear. I just needed to know, like, what everybody can only afford what they can afford to get things off the ground. That's the way it works. Done. So he basically said, he goes, look, going into this year, my price point per unit is X. And he goes, and what that means is when I put that into my pro forma, I have to get your fees, the other engineers and stuff like that. And he's like, this is where they have to be in order to make this equation work.
Yep.
So the macro is squeezing it in that regard as it pertains to, like, if you're working for developers. That's the bottom line, and it just, their bottom line is what it is, and it has to work out in that kind of way.
Yep. So connecting all the circles, the big lessons to me is you always have to pay the piper. You have to pay the piper, right? So this next article, I don't know if you were going to talk about it or me, but
it's all you, homie.
Okay.
You're Mr. Yahoo.
This week in Biden economics, debt boom.
I thought you made that title up for a second. Okay, keep going.
No. And it's just a graph of the debt. And this is where I'm going with you have to pay the piper.
Okay.
And Democrats and Republicans, there's an easy way to think about this, and then we can argue about what to use tax money on and what to spend money on, right? So it's just a chart, right?
Gosh.
All the way to 2005, the max was $7 trillion in debt. Right now, in 2020, we're at $30 trillion. And people will argue, and I actually love this argument because it makes complete sense. It's like, oh, we can spend trillions of dollars on, let's just say, the Army or the military, but we can't fix pipes in Detroit. or we can't have social safety nets. I'm like, yeah, that actually does make sense. But here's the problem. You can't pay with it through just more debt. And here's why. You have to pay the piper, or you should know.
Yeah.
Because eventually you'll have to pay the piper. So what should be the amount that the government should spend, right? And there's been studies about it, and it's proven, and it makes rational sense, and I'll say it again. Because then maybe we can stop all the fear-mongering and stop talking past each other and try to understand where other sides are coming from so that we can get a solution. First, seek to understand, then to be understood, okay? The government should only spend what it brings in plus an additional amount of what inflation is.
Okay.
So they should spend exactly the amount of tax money they bring in.
Yeah.
Inflation's at 6% this year. They spend that tax money plus 6% because essentially by the time they spend it, it's going to be eaten up in the growth.
And that's
of
what
inflation.
states already have to do.
Yep. Then you don't have to pay the piper. Then we can argue about like, hey, instead of just saying we should pay for this and pay for this and pay for this and keep adding it onto debt, say we have this amount of money. Should we spend this on, just to save the same analogy, and I'm not saying that this is the right argument, more missiles or more pipes? Like, then let's have that.
Yeah.
Let's have that discussion then. And, but I'm actually sick of people just blaming the other side and then blaming them and saying like, you're evil, you just want missiles, or hey, you just want to give everyone free stuff, when it's really like, can we at least structurally set up our country correctly and then have these things, then have these debates? Rant over.
Good stuff, Al. Pay attention to it. I mean, find your bottom. Again, like we're trying to show the macro and the micro here, so that everybody understands. It's a way of being stoic. So you're like, I can't end the Fed tomorrow. I can't get out of this system. Okay, I'm operating in this system, right? Where do I figure out how I maintain where my position in the system and hopefully thrive a little bit? You're gonna have to figure out the bottom in this first quarter. Like everybody's trying to figure out the bottom right now this first quarter. Mm-hmm. That's the conclusion. I mean, the title of the episode is "Where is the bottom of this market?" We're all trying to figure it out. So figure it out.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, let's bring down the crew and figure out some answers to these A.R.E. questions.
Yeehaw!
Question number 1. In the construction industry, relating to sound, what does IIC stand for? Is it A, International Insulation Classification? Is it B, Internal Impact Classification? Is it C, International Impact Class? Or is it D, Impact Insulation Class?
My questions are, I don't know. Ow.
Is it IIC, 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 or IIC? All right, what do we got?
B.
C, just guess. D. It is D, Impact Insulation Class. Okay. Question number 2. For multifamily dwellings, the International Building Code, which is the IBC, specifies a minimum IIC, which is the Impact Insulation Class, rating of blank. What? Is it A, 25, B, 45, C, 100, D, 50? What is it? B, D, D. D, 50. Same as sound. Bam.
All right, number 3. What is the maximum allowable horizontal deflection limit for a tall building in high seismicity zones as recommended by the American Society of Civil Engineers, otherwise known as ASCE, and the International Code Council, ICC? Is it A, 1/1000th of the building height? This will actually be on the test. B, 1/750th of the building height. C, 1/500th of the building height. Or D, 1/250th of the building height. So basically, what is the deflection laterally, right, for tall buildings in high seismicity zones? Is it A, 1/1000th, B, 1/750th, C, 1/500th, or D, 1/250th? Jason says C. Rebecca, C. Correct answer is C. Correct. Good job.
You
Great
guys,
job.
yeah. This makes sense.
Wow. Okay. Looks like we have a tiebreaker. Good. Number 4. Which of the following factors is not typically considered in the design of an HVAC system for large commercial building? Is it A, building and orientation, B, building occupancy type, C, building location, or D, building interior finishes? He says. A, building orientation, B, building occupancy type, C, building location, D, building interior finishes. Come on, Reeves, just be brave. Correct answer is D, building interior finishes.
What do we got? How many? Three.
Tiebreaker time.
All right. Oh. Okay. Guys, get your guns out right quick.
Yeah.
Talked about IIC ratings, but now, per the IBC, walls separating dwelling units shall have a minimum STC. All right, written. Damn. All right.
He wrote it. All right.
That's fantastic.
Where are we going to eat? The post. Okay.
Cool.
Lance, you give him a card. If you can. Do you have one?
Yes, I will give you guys a
Perfect.
credit
We'll explain later. Thanks for having us.
card. If you like this episode, you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to like, subscribe, leave us a positive comment. If you're listening on terrestrially on iTunes, please leave us a 5-star review. We will see you next week.